All right. Well, so Will, good to see you. Why don't you start by telling us who you are and what do you work on at HubSpot?
Hi, I'm William the Daff Hughes. I'm a PM focused on lead management and the prospecting workspace in HubSpot.
Very cool. So I know HubSpot's added this new lead object, which is different from how HubSpot's traditionally handled leads, just versus lifecycle stages. What sort of problems does the new leads object solve in HubSpot that wasn't being handled by just using a contact and a lead status? I'm curious to hear your perspective.
Yeah, great question. We really see the new lead object as a way to encourage teams, sales teams to more effectively track, execute, measure, and ultimately iterate on their lead qualification process. I think more and more prospecting is becoming more competitive. Sales and marketing teams really need to be data driven in their approach and how they're getting better. You simply need to be able to capture at a pretty granular level, why are certain MQLs not manifesting as deals? Why are they? How do the different attributes of the customer impact this? How do the different activities and sales approach of the rep impact this? There's a lot of rich data in that process that you and an organization can use to get better. Now back to lead status. Lead status is obviously a single discrete property. It's not capable of storing all of that rich context, all of that rich structured data about why you're succeeding or why not. Whereas the new lead object, it's a fully blown object that we're continuing to iterate and plan to take all the way to being a first class object like any other object in HubSpot in the next year. Additionally, I think sales is increasingly becoming what I would view as a circular process where maybe your first attempt, there's not budget or it's not a fit at this time, you're going to have to circle back. And ultimately, the leads object, unlike a traditional leads object, can manifest and represent that lead flowing back through the system very cleanly and tracking that individual lead's prospecting journey at that moment in time. And ultimately, I think a simple benefit for the end for reps as well is it makes a much more cleaner process and repeatable process for ensuring the right reps are working on the right type and the right priority of lead at a given time.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think about it kind of similar to what you're saying of it's a nonlinear process, right? Where it's not just a lead was unqualified. It's may not have been qualified at that time, but could be qualified again in the future. So that makes the new system really supports that, right?
Yeah, exactly. All of that context at that moment of disqualification or qualification is gold, especially at a macro level when you're able to distill hundreds or thousands of different leads and their associated data.
Awesome. So I know a lot of other CRMs, like your Salesforces, your Microsoft Dynamics, they've had this separate idea of leads for a while, and that's caused actually a lot of issues in them, is what I've seen. What did you do differently to make sure HubSpot wasn't going to have the same issues with this new lead object?
So I think the biggest differentiator with how we've approached leads at HubSpot is well, other organizations see leads as being sort of the first artifact in your CRM. As soon as sort of you encounter a given sort of contact or person in the world, if you track them as a lead, we see leads as existing in the middle of sort of the prospecting journey, at the point at which a prospect is sort of ready to talk to sales, to have a salesperson reach out to them. The moment of that qualified lead, that is the moment at which we use a lead to track the journey, the qualification journey, and hopefully ultimately ending up as a deal of that individual lead. So in my opinion, the way leads have been modeled in the past, it's pretty broken. And I think it's becoming even more obsolete in this world of data enrichment services, like intent-driven inbound marketing. There's just a lot more information you can learn about a prospect before you necessarily need to start talking to them. And we ultimately, I think, want our customers to create leads when they believe a prospect is sales ready and they can really narrow in on the types of customers they're succeeding with, the types of prospects, the sales tactics that are working and leading to deals, and ultimately bottom line revenue, and giving you a very clean sort of reporting window into how that is all operating. And again, like prospecting is a circular process. If in a lot of the other paradigms that the lead is converted to a company or an account, prospecting is circular. You need to be able to handle when a new stakeholder enters the fold potentially, or someone who previously you DQ'd comes back in through an intent signal. Maybe they download a form or express some other intent. And the other paradigms in the market like can't really accommodate this cleanly in that old school structure.
Definitely. Well, and I certainly appreciate the fact you don't have to dedupe between contacts and leads. That's a huge win in my mind. So, um, awesome. So, I know that the new lead object is a big part of this prospecting workspace. What are some of the goals with the new prospecting workspace, and how does leads really fit into that?
I think overall with the new prospecting workspace, our goal is really to give customers and sales customers in particular an out of the box prospecting point of view that helps reps prioritize the leads again that matter, prioritizing the leads that we think are most likely to end up driving revenue and yielding deals, and focus on ultimately closing and qualifying these leads in a very efficient way.
Hmm.
Um, Leads are sort of the data rich object that's going to help our customers get better. It's going to help them, you know, move more efficiently, and it's just a way better method for them to track, execute, measure, and iterate. I'm going to say that again and again and again until my mouth falls off on their process,
Mhm.
and ultimately that structured data that we're collecting in the prospecting workspace through the lead, through your activities, is all incredible data for us to throw AI magic over to really use to prescribe, and I can talk about this a little bit later, and ultimately recommend things to a rep to help them move faster and focus on what they do best, which is selling, which is another main goal of the workspace. I think is automating bullshit. Anywhere reps should spend as much of their time doing reps are best doing, which is getting on the phone, emailing people, talking to people, pitching their product.
Mhm.
Data hygiene, updating lead statuses manually, all these things is additional mental bandwidth that we do not need to take up and that we can automate for them.
Love that. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Um, so this is a feature that you have to actively enable in your portal, which is, I think, a good idea. What types of companies do you think should be exploring whether they should turn this feature on or not?
Definitely. Glad you asked this. So I'd say there are kind of four criteria I look for with a company right now with whether they're a good fit for our lead management. One, companies with specialized reps who work leads provided by their marketing team, great excuse for leads. Or not excuse, great reason to use leads. You want to track again that qualification journey, have like a really granular idea of what the rep is doing, and being able to tie that through and ultimately attribute it to the outcome of that lead.
Mhm.
Um, and also oftentimes the contact owner may be a marketer. Maybe you want the prospecting rep to not sort of take over that ownership of the object. Leads supports a discrete owner now. We have that feature in public beta. It'll soon be available to all. That also sort of enables that discrete swim lanes between the marketer who is producing the contact and the rep who is ultimately working it. I think any company with like a pre-deal stage in their process, like you probably don't have a very structured way of again tracking, analyzing, and iterating on that above the deal process. So the lead is a great fit for being creating a structured way that you can track all of that data. I think companies that sell to prospects, as we've talked about, that become a lead multiple times during their life cycle, this idea of if they come back, now is not a good time. Often in sort of like more sort of complex models, again, great fit.
Mhm.
And then I think fourthly, companies with an upsell or cross sell motion.
Mhm.
It's great because again, you have a company record. You want that to be able to represent who this customer is right now, what they're doing. You don't want to sort of taint it and make it seem like this is a sort of new business or something like that. So being able to separate that out with the lead object, I think, is like a really valuable aspect for those teams. And I think another thing worth mentioning, we intend to accommodate even more companies with these use cases to really broaden who leads can be available for as we head into 2024 or progress through 2024.
Yeah, that sounds great. So I'm extra curious about this. So we've had tasks for a long time in HubSpot, and task queues, which are kind of like a great tool for that classic like SDR, BDR type role where you're kind of high activity focused, and that kind of streamlines everything for you. Now we have leads, which is great. They're kind of starting to get in that same task territory where you can have them multiple times and things like that. So I'm curious, how should we think about like the differences between assigning a task versus a lead, or maybe both, or how do you think about that?
Yeah, definitely. I think the simplest example to think of here is Tasks are really about, coordinating and tracking sort of individual rep activities, and making sure that they're staying on top of that in a structured way often. Leads are really the deal object, but for your prospecting process. So, really like creating an individual object to be able to track the progression and individually look at that sort of above the deal process, which ultimately then makes all of the downstream analytics, your deal closed predictability, all that thing much cleaner because you're creating deals at an appropriate time in the process.
Gotcha. Okay. So really a both and maybe to summarize it. Like I should have a lead, I should have an open task on that lead. And then once I finally qualify that lead, that's when I update the lead, that new status on it. Does that seem right?
Yes, exactly. And I think again, the lead object, we're very early on this.
Mm,
We're still in the process of sort of articulating and building more functionality to help these things work together even better.
cool. Okay, great. One thing I noticed kind of going through this is the defaults on leads feel really solid. And there's a lot that we used to have to manually build out on contacts and lead status that you've baked in here. It's baked in by default. Auto advancing lead status, disqualification reasons, all that kind of stuff. Can you talk to me about the decision to have more opinionated defaults in the system, which is, really great in my opinion, but curious how we got there.
Yeah, great question. And I think it goes back to something I mentioned, which is it's about providing out of the box value for customers.
Mhm.
Our customers, I think something's unique is they look to HubSpot not only as like a service provider, but really as a thought leader in the space. And I think, in addition to the enablement content, blog posts, sort of typical stuff you do to do that, I think that POV also really needs to manifest in the product. And smart defaults enable us to, take our expertise and out of the box give it directly to these organizations so they don't even have to think about it and they sort of are able to instantly operate a best-in-class prospecting process. And I think another like important thing is we're constantly sort of in this process of connecting with our customers, hearing how we can improve it. We're in the ideas forum, we're getting on customer calls, we're running surveys, and a lot of those common requests, common pain points manifest in the product as smart defaults so everyone can benefit.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Okay, cool. Last question. I saw there's actually already been a lot of additional features added since this initial lead rollout. So I saw there were more fields in the lead table, like telling me whether this lead belongs to a target account and maybe which tier it belongs to. And then lead workflows. There's been more functionality added there, custom owners, other properties, stuff like that. That all is really cool. Is there anything else that we should be looking forward to as kind of, leads go into 2024?
Oh, definitely. We're super excited about the direction we're taking the lead object in and the prospecting workspace. I'm going to give you sort of four key things that I'm really psyched about.
Sweet.
This first one is kind of cheating. It's actually three things. But when I talk about really bringing leads into the platform as a first-class object, the three things that are coming down the pipe pretty soon are one, full sort of create, update, delete support via our APIs for the lead object. We know that's going to help a lot of customers sort of map their existing processes to the new object. Global permissions support. So, just like any object, we want you to have your full sort of compliance structure and what you want with regards to permissions reflected in the lead object. So supporting it there. And finally, to go back to something you've mentioned, more robust, both out of the box, but also supported in our workflows product, automation of leads. So again, just giving you more flexibility, but also more smart defaults and best practice automation to help you get going and have that first-class sales prospecting process. Other three things I think that'll be a big hit. Custom properties. We hear the people. I know this has been a big one. It's a succession of a lot of these small to medium changes.
Sure.
So in addition to a lot of the default properties that we're in the process of adding right now, something like things like time zone, like a lead type, like the lead owner property we've shipped. We do want to give customers that full flexibility. So custom properties is something, it's one of our top priorities, and we're really hoping to get that done in the first half of 2024 is my goal. Other big pain point, managers, admins, we hear you. This is a space, the prospecting workspace was designed for end users. It was designed for reps. Next step of that, obviously, is is supporting the managers, supporting the admins, helping them feel plugged into the object, helping them feel plugged in and that they can quickly understand their lead pipeline health. All things we intend to support through upcoming features. Again, first half of 2024, get psyched with sort of manager views, more admin discrete functionality, tons of sort of functionality going to those folks. And then fourthly, to hint back to where's the magic? We're collecting all this structured data, sort of what happens. We're also currently thinking about how do we guide and suggest actions to users? How do we take our incredible AI and machine learning teams? How do we take all of this new structured data we're seeing in the platform? And how do we use that to help your reps get better? How do we use that to help your reps take action faster? Those are all things that we're looking to manifest. I can't talk a ton about it now, but we're looking to roll out some pretty exciting stuff this year with regards to suggesting and helping your reps move a lot faster.
Awesome. Love the sound of that. That sounds really cool. Can't wait to see how that manifests in the product. All right. Well, Will Hughes, I appreciate your time. This was awesome. Thanks for sharing with us about how leads and how we should embrace them and the beautiful, bright future we can expect here. So appreciate your time.
Of course. Likewise. Thanks for the time, Parker.